What's going on?
Hi, how are you?
I'm blessed, Charlese. Am I pronouncing that right, Charlese?
Yeah, you're pronouncing my name right. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I've been trying to talk to more Black, journalists and news outlets, but it's been hard because the media space is kind of weird right now.
I agree. I agree. But it's interesting because that day that I messaged you was the first day that I came across your page. And it was off a simple hashtag because I was just looking for people to just share my episode with because I'm from Chicago and there's another Chicago brand that
Mhm.
did a special Black Panther line. And I was just like, who can I share this with? And then I saw your profile, and I'm just like, not only do I want to share this with you, but I want to pick your brain a little bit and learn more because I feel like there's not enough knowledge that's going around about, being in film and just those spaces, and just have people talk about that.
I agree. I completely agree, and I'm always down to share knowledge. And when I looked at because people contact me, but by far, yours was like the most professional and like put together.
Wow.
Like your editing and stuff, and I was like, okay, like I can see, once you get more word out there, like I think your show could do really, really well because it looked good. So I was like, I'll do this,
I
because
appreciate
sometimes my media people are like, oh, well, they don't have a huge following or whatever. But I'm like, but how is it presented? You know what I'm saying? Like, if people are putting effort into the presentation, the followers will come. So, so I was like, oh, this is good. I'm down.
I appreciate that. And it did take a lot of work. And, it's great to see a visual come together once it's all done. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. I noticed one thing about you is that you love vintage fashion. You love the 60s and 70s, era. Tell me what you enjoy most about that.
Um, wow. So I think what I enjoy the most about that is just how much counterculture influenced fashion during that time. So during the 60s, we have all these protests happening. We have all these counterculture movements emerging. And with each movement came particular looks and styles. And, from like hippies to the Panthers, right? And then there were a bunch of organizations that were inspired by the Panthers, multicultural revolutionary organizations that took up berets as well, different color berets. Also, during the 60s, you had the emergence of what we know as like futuristic fashion because the space launches were happening then, the Apollo space launches. So there was and there was this race to, go to space first. So that influenced fashion as well. So you have all these, um, designers like Paco Rabanne using plastics and like interesting materials and really pushing forward what is futuristic, but it's also what is mod. It was mod silhouettes using like interesting fabrications. And also when you talk about menswear, the foundation of what we know as like menswear silhouettes, like modern menswear silhouettes, were established in the 60s as well. So a lot of what Daniel wears in the movie are like crew neck sweatshirts. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
I couldn't, when I was doing the research, I couldn't believe how much was established during that time that we know of as like, the beginnings of streetwear, which is varsity wear, right? Hoodies, crew necks, varsity jackets, cardigans, like all that stuff was established,
Wow.
the 50s. And then, the hoodie and the crew necks were heavily worn in like the 60s, right? So and even down to sneakers, like I remember looking at imagery, and because we were able to get some companies to send us products. So Levi's sent us jeans, like all the jeans that Daniel wears in the movie, Levi's sent because it's a silhouette that they've been making forever. It was the 505 jean. Also Adidas, they sent us sneakers as well. One of our characters wears Adidas is exclusively. Doc, who's played by Ian Duff. So he wears like the Adidas Gazelle silhouette, exclusively because that was in production at the time. So it was really interesting learning all these things as I was doing my research and realizing like how a lot of these styles and silhouettes from these brands that we know as modern brands were around in the 60s as well.
Yeah. And I'm gonna add on to that too, because I just got a dope pair of Adidas. It's called the BW Army. And that template was used for the Mason Margiela. I forget what sneaker it
Yeah.
was, but it's crazy how upper scale brands will borrow from your Nike or Adidas and sell it as their own. Like the Alexander McQueen, like that's a Stan Smith with a platform sole on it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
funny thing about it. But so you dress in these bright colors. I see you got the puffy coat on today. And I've seen a lot of different pictures that you've taken on in your living room. Like you have a lot of dresses that have like the kind of like prom, like see-through material, a lot of satin pieces and leather pieces. Tell me about the energy that you feel when you take those pictures in your living room, because you being a costume designer, you obviously, you design yourself and just like have what is it, a muse?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially during a pandemic, like I had to be my own muse, you know what I'm saying? And so I came up with this idea that was like helping me get cope, you know what I'm saying? And it was "You Still Bad Sis." So I was just going in my closet and getting dressed and taking pictures, and then was like interviewing friends and talking to them about how they were coping with the pandemic. But yeah, I had to be my own muse during the pandemic because I was just with me, you know, for the most part. And you know, and that's why it's important that, you know, for me, that you have pieces in your wardrobe that you love, that are timeless, and just really playing in clothes. And I love fabrics and silhouettes and texture. I mean, I love anything, you know, shiny and sequins. I've always been a huge fan of anything tulle, you know, metallics, leather, like really rich fabrics, fur. I love fur, you know, faux and real. Don't kill me. So I just had a lot of fun playing in my clothing, and just seeing how good I could make myself feel, you know, even though I'm stuck in the house and it's a pandemic. And like you know, being my own muse and loving on myself, because it was hard, you know, especially in the early part of the pandemic, and it still is, but especially in the early part, we didn't know what was happening, you know, we really didn't know what was happening. I had no idea, like, if I was like, I didn't know if I was gonna make it a year. I didn't, because so many people around me were passing on. So I was like, I'm just gonna like enjoy being in the house as best I can and play in my clothes and love on myself and just get into these nice fabrics and textures.
I totally agree. And what would you say self-love is ranked at a time like this? Because obviously it's important, but where would you say like that ranks, or why is that important?
I mean, self love is, you know, it is at the top of the list right now, because a lot of us are stuck in the house with ourselves, right? If we are adhering to, you know, sheltering in place still, and, you know, doing our part to stay safe, a lot of us are spending a lot of time alone with ourselves if we don't have, you know, friends and family that we live with. So, you know, you spend a lot of time with yourself, you got to really look at yourself. And and sometimes you don't like what you see. But, you know, it's important to like love yourself throughout all your imperfections. You know, you only get one life, you are only you know, and like, yes, you can totally make efforts to be a better version of yourself. But even with that, you gotta like be kind to yourself, because no one's going to no one's gonna do for you more than you will, you know. And I think it's important to remember that, because you know what you need, you know what the desires of your heart are. And so if you don't love and take care of yourself and like go after your needs and wants and dreams, no one else will. And so that's why I think self-love is the most important. Self-love, being honest with yourself, you know, about what you really desire, and going forward, like, and being non-apologetic about it. I think that's the ultimate self-love.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree, because at a time like this, like even for myself, I live at home and I'm just like walking around and I'm just like, what do I do next? But I'm just like, nah, I have to like do the things that I enjoy most. Like just like you, I love fashion too, but I also love like comic books and Marvels. Like I got a like slight little like action figure collection over here. I just bought me a PlayStation. So it really allowed me to tap into the things that I once enjoyed. Because one thing that I'm learning is that the things that you love to do as a kid, you still love to do now, and they're therapeutic, but also just like that curiosity of a kid and wanting to learn and grow more and expand upon things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm basically doing the things I love to do as a kid. Like as a kid, I would, you know, draw outfits for my Barbies and play with Barbies all day long, and put my Barbies in different scenarios. So I guess I was like creating like little mini plays with my Barbies and outfits and scenarios. And now I work in film, which is basically what I do with real people. So, and you know, and in high school, me and my friends, like we were really into fashion, and we, you know, dreamed of having our own clothing line one day, and that was part of the push to get me to go to fashion school. So yeah, I completely agree. Like really tapping into that, especially now, like really tapping into the things that we love to do as children and things that make you feel happy and bring you joy. It's like as long as it's not hurting nobody, like do it, you know?
What type of scenarios would you be putting your Barbies through?
I mean, I don't know. It was probably involving Ken, like because you know with Barbies, it's like you get all these Barbies in one Ken, so they were probably fighting over Ken and having dinner parties and doing all kinds of stuff. I can't remember, but I remember they would be dressed, and I would be really upset. I had little sisters, and my little sisters were like pop the heads off my dolls and do all kinds because they were babies. They didn't know how to play with dolls, and I would be so sad, and my mom would have to like calm me down.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you have that favorite toy or game that just doesn't work anymore, and you go back to the store and it's unavailable. So it's just tragic.
Yeah, no, it was super sad.
Yeah. So that leads into my next question. What got you into film design?
Yeah, so what got me into film and costume design was me realizing that there was two things that I love that converged into a career. I went to school for fashion, thinking I was going to work in the fashion industry, and I did for a little while, but I didn't last long. I didn't enjoy corporate fashion because I wasn't able to design and like touch the clothing. You know, I was doing spreadsheets all day, and it just didn't feel like a fashion job to me. And so I left that industry, and then I decided to work as a stylist. And my first thing I did was I took a class at FIT about styling and it helped me start my portfolio. And then I worked for and assisted a few stylists during that time, and it was cool, but it wasn't quite like everything that I wanted to do. You know, like it was cool styling like up and coming musicians. I did that for a while in Brooklyn. Like a lot of my friends who were musicians, I styled them for like TV appearances and music videos and stuff like that. And then you know, I worked on some editorials with a few stylists, but I'm very much a storyteller, and I wanted to tell stories with clothing, and I realized film was a way to do that. And I'd always loved film, and I always loved the costumes in film. And I realized that I had been watching certain movies over and over for the costumes, right? And so when I got to New York, there were so many things shooting everywhere, and I was like, well, how do I get on a movie set? So I just kept asking questions, and to the point where I was annoying. And while doing this, I was also like on Craigslist, like trying to do short films and things like that and meet people and like trying to build my portfolio that way. But my big break happened when I was actually working Fashion Week, and someone heard me talking about wanting to work on film and came up to me and offered me an internship. And that was my big break, and that's what got me into the business. So I interned on a Michael Douglas film, and like a few weeks later I got referred and it was unpaid, and a few weeks later I got referred for my first paid job, and I haven't stopped working ever since. And that was, I would say, 2008 when I first started working. And then in 2012, and again, while you know working in costume departments, working my way up, I was still doing like my own projects on the side. So again, like short films, and you know, networking with like up and coming filmmakers. And one of those filmmakers was Shaka King, and he and I actually lived in the same building at the time. And so we would talk. You know, I would tell him about like things I'm working on, and he's just like, I can't wait to graduate from school so I can start working. And I'm just like, yeah, you know. And he would send me scripts, and so he sent me a script for a movie called Newlyweeds. And I was like, I love this. I would love to costume design this. I need to costume design something so I can like costume design a feature. So I can like prove that I can do it and like keep, you know, working as a costume designer because I have been assisting. And he was like, really, you want to do it? I was like, yeah. I was like, when you get funding, let me know. And so a couple of weeks went by, or maybe months, I don't know. And he was like, hey, we got funding. And they ended up raising $500,000 to shoot Newlyweds. And then we shot that in Brooklyn. We shot it all around Brooklyn and some of it in our building where we lived. And then we also got it into Sundance. It competed at Sundance in the next category. And we got to screen it at Sundance in Utah and then Sundance in LA. And they went to a couple other festivals and things like that. And then after that, I costume designed The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete, which also premiered at Sundance the same year, 2013. And, you know, from then on, I kept working as a costume designer. I moved to LA for a couple years and, you know, worked my way through LA. And at this point, I've done 10 features as a costume designer. And I don't know how many TV shows, but people can look at my IMDb. And I've shot movies in New York, LA, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and television in Atlanta, movies in Jamaica. I've done like commercials in, you know, Bermuda and the Bahamas and things like that. So I travel and work everywhere. You know, I've had a Super Bowl commercial as well with Lil Yachty. The one with Lil Yachty and LeBron James. I did that one a couple years back. It was like 2017. So I've done some really dope work. It's just really cool that this movie is doing so well because I've been working for a long time, you know, and it's cool that like this is the one that everyone is like gravitating towards because it's such an important story.
Absolutely. And it's just funny because like we will work for years and not seeing, and it seems like we're not getting any traction. And it's just like that one film or piece or video episode is, and it's just like, boom, you know, because I've been seeing the different posts that you've had and just other like critics, you know, talking about the movie, and it's nothing but good reviews. And I actually just finished the movie probably about 9 hours ago because I finished it at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I started it earlier in the day because I go to work from 2 to 11, and then I watched it during my break, and then I finished it, and I was just like, oh yeah, this was great. And quick side note, that horn when William O'Neill would have like this scary revelation, it was just like, oh, it was just like, oh, you know, and it gave me Get Out vibes, you know. And we could talk more about Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith in just a moment. But name a time where you felt like giving up, because you told me about all of these different projects, and to the average person, they're just like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, that's great, but people don't hear the dark side of it. So name a time where you was just like, I don't know.
I mean, right before I got Judas and the Black Messiah, I was like legitimately about to quit.
All those years.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe this isn't it, you know, because I was having a really hard time um, getting onto projects that I felt like um, fed me, you know, in a real way, creatively. And also, you know, I was like having a hard time getting onto projects that had enough resources for me to create in the way that I wanted to create. And so, you know, that can be very frustrating if you're not being fed creatively and then you're also not able to access resources in the kinds of projects that you're being pitched for or going after. You know, because you're not in certain rooms, right? So like the opportunities that I'm getting now because of Judas is going to put me in like, you know, rooms so I can create the way that I've always imagined creating and telling the stories I always imagined telling. So yeah, I was frustrated because I felt like I had been working for a while and I just felt like I was doing, you know, doing this and like kind of getting off of the same kind of things over and over and over again and wasn't getting like really stretched creatively. Or like I said, if I was getting stretched creatively, it was like, and you have $5 to do it with, you know? And so I was just like, I don't know, maybe I need to do something else for a while and then, you know, take a break and then come back to it. Because I got really frustrated. And then, you know, I remember actually talking to Shaka about this and he was just like, you're going to get on this movie and everything's going to change. He was like, everything's going to change. You're going to get on this movie, everything's going to change. And I was like, okay, you know, because I wasn't sure because I had to interview for the movie, you know, even though he was my friend. I still had to um, prove myself, you know? I had to prove myself. I hadn't done a studio project before. All the projects that I had done were indie.
Mhm.
And so I had to prove myself, and I got the movie. And then, you know, so this whole process is like totally reassured me that I'm on the right path, because I wasn't sure, you know. I was just like, am I spinning in place? Like, should I do something else? So I'm just really grateful for like the new life that has been breathed into my career and just into me as an artist, and the conversations that I'm having and the people that I'm meeting, you know, and the support that I'm getting from like my community, you know, and my colleagues in the industry, because it's definitely like reassured me that I'm on the right path, and given me like new eyes to see my work through, and also see myself as an artist.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I saw that you did your research on the Black Panthers, specifically the Chicago's chapter, and you
Mhm.
saw that their outfits were totally different from the typical leather jacket, sunglasses, braid. It was still a little bit of that. But tell me, what was it like searching for those items and finding them and seeing them come to life?
Yeah, it was a really fun scavenger hunt. So, well, first, what we had to do was figure out what these camo jackets were that we kept seeing in these photos. Like, what era were they from? Were they American even? You know, because we couldn't tell just offhand by looking at the photos. So I actually had to go to a costume house in LA who are experts at military, show them the photos and talk to them. And they were like, oh yeah, they're World War II jackets. And it was dope because they had some there, but they didn't have enough because we needed a lot. And so we were able to rent some from them. And then also what we did is I sent a picture to, you know, my shoppers, and my assistant designer and myself and my key costumer, and every single costume house we went to, vintage store, um, vintage dealer, we checked to see if they had these jackets, and we just kept finding them, and we just kept finding them more than we even realized. And they're World War II jackets. And also we pulled some shirts that were like Vietnam War era shirts as well that people could wear, because there were people coming back from the Vietnam War and joining up from the Panthers. So, you know, we so it was an amazing scavenger hunt, and it was like one of those things where it's like seeking you shall find, right? Because I was like kind of nervous. I was like, how am I going to pull this off in this time frame? With all the cast that we had. I mean, we had 117 cast members, 1,000 background, all period. Our budget was not as much as we actually needed, but we made it work. So I was really like, how are we going to find all this stuff? And it was very specific things that we need to find. And literally, we just sought and we found. And you know, it's a very much a testament to the resources that LA has, like in the various costume houses. Ohio had amazing vintage and resources. Shout out to eBay. You know, I found some amazing pieces on eBay vintage pieces that I would buy and get shipped to us. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I love doing that. I mean, I met a dealer out in Fresno in California, and I just pulled up with my minivan and like bought as much as I could from him. And he had bought out department stores like years ago. He had bought out department stores. So he had dead stock, like piled high, like jeans and shoes in the box, and leather, like racks of leather coats that I just like bought as much as I could. And it was amazing. So that's my favorite part of the job, is like, you know, the sourcing and the hunting and the finding of, you know, materials and new vendors, and working with, you know, those types of people. And I love it. It's the best part.
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. So tell me, what was it like working with the cast? Because was a huge movie, because not only was, it a very historical event, you got an all-star cast, but it's coming out during a time of civil unrest. So what was it like working with the cast and them trusting you?
I mean, I'm honored to have worked with the cast, because they really did trust me, and and you can tell, right? Because you said it, they trust me, right? Because no one fought me over their clothes. They were down. They were down and they were like, can you do even more? You know what I mean? Like they wanted to go for it, you know, because they're like, this is a period piece. And so I'm just really lucky and I'm blessed because I had amazing fittings, initial fittings with Lakeith. Like we had a 4-hour fitting the first time we met, and we like really hammered out a lot of the beats and notes of, you know, his character's evolution throughout the script. You know, I had the script, had my breakdown, and we just like went through the entire script together and tried on clothes. You know, Daniel, with him, you know, he's based, a lot of his looks are based on like actual silhouettes and images of Chairman Fred. So it was like showing him the mood board and these, you know, these key iconic silhouettes that we wanted to recreate, and he was down. Dominique Fishback, you know, her as Deborah. So we didn't have a ton of photographs of Deborah Johnson to go off of, but you know, based it off her look off of like, you know, Black college girls during the time, and just really wanted her to look really cute, you know, like she's a young girl, and have a lot of fun with that and just really show like the 60s trends, you know, in some of what she wears, especially early on. So, I mean, the cast was amazing. I couldn't have had a better cast. And I think that's why the costumes look so good, because they really, really trusted me and they were just down. And also the director, he's always just like, go for it. He loves color, he loves clothing, he loves fabric. So, you know, all of those were like the perfect, it was like the perfect blend and the perfect, it was, yeah, it was just perfect. I mean, because, you know, everybody wanted me to do my thing and trusted me to do my thing and were so supportive. And, you know, and outside of work, we were, you know, had great camaraderie. You know, we all still keep up with each other. I mean, because for a lot of us, it was like the first time we had been around that many young Black people on a set, you know, because a lot of us are like the only one, right? And it was a mixture of men and women, you know. So, you know, there might be a time where you are like the only woman and you're on a set with like several Black men, or vice versa, right? And so that was unique in itself, you know, having a Black director, several Black producers, you know, Charles King, Ryan Coogler, um, and then also, you know, myself, another Black department head. The hair department head was Black, and then people on my team were Black, people on the hair team were Black. And so, you know, like there was a lot of Black people around, more than usual, you know. So it was a very special environment for them as well, I think, to be able to feel comfortable to, you know, act and feel safe, you know, doing an emotional project like this. So yeah, it was a very unique experience. I'm really grateful for it. I'm really grateful for the cast, because I think all of us allowed each other to do our best work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads into my next question, because I wanted to know, when you, because you've done several pieces, several projects about, you know, either Black empowerment or just Black oppression, and everyone isn't always Black on those sets. So what is it like working on a piece about Black oppression with white people on set? Like, are they understanding? Are they like, oh, this should be that way? Or are they more like receptive and like, you know, you guys guide our thinking?
Well, it was funny because on this project, everyone who was involved was just so enamored with Chairman Fred's life and the story, and had like the utmost respect, and were so passionate about doing justice to the story. So we didn't have any problems, you know, like you know, I didn't have any problems with colleagues, you know, saying and doing things that were inappropriate, like I have on other projects. So because everyone's heart was in the right place and everyone was like using their creativity as a service to this man's life. And so it was an amazing group of people. It really, really was. And I was so grateful for that. I don't think we would have been able to get through it if we weren't all on the same page, you know, Black, white, there's, you know, Black people, white people, Latinx people, you know, Indian American people, you know, like we had to actually, you know, we even talked about how our crew represented this idea of the Rainbow Coalition, like what Chairman Fred, you know, started, you know? And we spoke about that, you know, because we actually had an instance where there was a bad car accident near set, and everybody stopped what they were doing and jumped in and tried to save the people who were in the accident. And it was like, and people were in costume, you know, and everything, and it was just like this multicultural group of people like being of service in the community that day. And so I'm just really grateful for the group of people that this movie brought together. And I'm grateful that like we didn't have any issues of like anyone overstepping boundaries or saying or doing anything inappropriate. Everybody knew why they were there and what they were in service to. And that's beautiful.
Absolutely. And, I love how you took the unity that you all had on set and related that to the Rainbow Coalition, because as a nation, we're pretty divided. But we all still have the same issues. So what do you think that people can gain from your experience on set or just watching the movie in order to have a better America?
Yeah, I mean, I think our movie shows that in multiple ways. One, you know, the message behind what Chairman Fred was doing and the Panthers were doing in the Rainbow Coalition, and then also from the standpoint of the film industry, you know, we had a lot of Black people in key positions, and look how well this movie came out, and look how well this movie is doing. And also, you know, we had, you know, we had multicultural departments like mine, you know, and we were all working together. And I think that what we all need to understand is like, is particularly in this industry, is like everything doesn't need to be all this or all that. What we need to do is understand and learn how to work together and create together, because all these different perspectives make the thing better, actually, you know, like things being all one, you know, all being from one perspective or another perspective creatively, I just don't think that makes good art. You know, I think what makes good art are these contrasts, are these like creative struggles that we have, and even sometimes cultural struggles, you know, and cultural understanding. And some people who are from different cultures will like dive into something and, you know, get a little bit more nuanced about it, you know, because they're really intent on learning about the thing and bring that perspective to, you know, to the project. And so I think that's what we need to learn is like, in order for us to like be great, we actually need to work together and bring all of our different perspectives, especially if you have, like I said, the same common goal and you have the same, you're bringing the same intentions to the project, right? So that's what I would hope that people would learn, particularly in this industry, is like that's true diversity. You know, it's not about everything being all this way or all that way. It's like all different kinds of people working together to create an amazing piece of art.
Absolutely. And I love how you put that together because, you know, there's perspectives that we bring that others will not understand. And then there's perspective, maybe not from a racial standpoint, but from a, moral standpoint that, people could bring to the other side. So, it's definitely, there's definitely a lot of unity that can make a piece a masterpiece. That's probably why it's called a masterpiece, because so many things have went into it being this one complete project. But you mentioned how the camaraderie that you had with people that were on set, and I'm not sure if these are the same people that were included in that Boys and Girls Club, the Design U program, because I saw Lakeith, but I couldn't like pick out who else was in the crowd just off a quick glance. But tell me about how that came together.
Yeah, so the ensemble cast came and spoke to the kids. So it was Daniel, Lakeith, both Dominique Fishback and Dominique Thorne, Ian Duff, Daryl Brick Gibson. He's the one that put it all together. He plays Bobby Rush, and Caleb Ebhart. Um, I think that was everybody. So that was like the main cast. So when you watch the movie, that's like the core group of the Panthers, you know, that are always in each scene with, Daniel, right? And Daryl Brick Gibson, he put it together because he was a member of the Boys and Girls Club, and he asked me to come speak because he knows me. We've been friends and colleagues for a few years now, and he knows I'm down for the kids and stuff like that. And he was like, "If you can come speak, I think it would be really great." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "I'm gonna try," because I actually had a fitting with Martin Sheen that day, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try. When I'm done this fitting, I'll come." And thankfully, I was able to come. I did the fitting with Martin Sheen. It went great, and then the Boys and Girls Club was like literally up the street from where we had been shooting this whole time, like literally walking distance from our base camp where all our trucks and trailers were parked, like 2 blocks away. It was crazy. And so I went, and the whole cast was there, and I was late. And everybody's, before I got there, they were like playing basketball with the kids and just hanging out with the kids. And then when I got there, they were all lined up and seated to speak to the kids. And that's probably the image you saw. It was like all of us lined up. And it's hard to tell who's who because everyone's low key. It's the weekend. No one's in costume or in blanket, right? But it was the whole cast. If you really look at it again, you'll be like, oh, that is Daniel. He just has on a Scully, right? And so I was just so moved by the fact that everyone showed up, for these kids. And I just thought it was beautiful. And that wasn't the only thing they did. They also spoke at a performing arts school while they were there. So the cast was amazing. And that's what I mean. Like, it's just an amazing group of people. And so how it came about was, we spoke to the kids, and they introduced me and my work. And the kids were so excited about the fact that I did See You Yesterday and Raising Dion. And I had no idea that these kids knew my work. And so I just started crying because I was like, this is amazing. And I talked to them about, my journey a little bit. And then after the program director, Joseph Greathouse, he showed us the music studio that someone donated. And I was like, oh, wow, someone donated this. That's cool, And so we were all having brunch afterwards, me and the cast. And I was sitting next to Daryl. And I was like, hey, Daryl, do you think if I like donated sewing machines, do you think they would have space? And he was like, well, let's ask. So he texted Joe and he's like, hey, Charlese, the costume designer, wants to donate sewing machines. Do you have space? And he was like, absolutely. This was on Saturday. By Monday, I raised $1,000 and I bought 10 sewing machines. We donated, and then we got local designers and brands to donate stuff. So we had 2 more sewing machines donated from local Cleveland stores and designers. We donated all the leftover fabric and materials from the movie, patterns, like we donated everything, boxed everything up, wrapped it up, and dropped it off right before Christmas, before we wrapped. And so that's how it came about. And then ever since then, I've just been supporting programming from afar, having meetings with them about ideas for modules and things like that. During the pandemic, I raised more money. I had an individual donor donate enough, so we sent them heat presses and T-shirts and cry cut machines and vinyl, so they can do their own like graphic tee, streetwear module. So I'm working on that, like getting some graphic designers to teach, and streetwear designer who's local to Cleveland to come in and show them how to use all the stuff. And then I also raised $1,700 for my birthday again this year. I raised $1,700 to go towards like graphic design programs and software and things like that. So that's what I've been doing. And, I was inspired by the Panthers and the spirit of Chairman Fred. And like, I always thought, oh, I'd have to like make it before I could do anything because I couldn't afford it. And it's just like, no, you do what you can with what you have. And like all these little things you do like add up to something big for someone, especially in a child,
Absolutely. And I've been reading about the power of giving is that like, when you give, it comes back to you, even if it's just a small amount. It's just all about, putting that energy out for it to return to you. So my question is that why did you feel that that was important? Because most people, you might feel like, oh, well, I'm not where I want to be financially or professionally. So I'll just do it when I make it big. I'll just do it when I get there. But you were just like, no, like, let's do this now.
Yeah. Well, it was being in that community, shooting the movie and seeing how under-resourced it was and how it was a predominantly Black community. And then where I lived while I was in Cleveland was a predominantly white community, and it was not under-resourced. I lived in a luxury building while I was shooting there. And I was just like, this is like a tale of two cities, which are most cities in America, right? And so I was just like, I just didn't feel right leaving that city and, working there and making the money that I'm making while I'm there and not giving back in some way. Also, I wish that there was something like that for me, you know? And so a lot of times the things that I do is because I'm like, I wish I had this, you know, when I'm giving back, that's like the spirit I'm giving back in. So it's like, I wish there was a Boys and Girls Club that I could have went to and learned these skills and learned how to design and take my ideas from ideas to like tangible things. I wish that existed for me. So I created it for someone else. So that was the two main reasons, was like living and working in a place that I saw was under resourced and a predominantly Black place, and being a Black person and how it made me feel, and also my personal experiences from childhood and like, you know, being in under resourced at times, you know, as a child, and wishing there was a creative outlet, you know. So I'm just grateful that I did it, and I just didn't say, oh well, I don't know, you know, because we do that, like you're just like, oh, I don't know, like I don't, you know. And so I'm glad I spoke up and I said something, and I asked the question, was like, do you think they would be down? And the answer was yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it just takes a simple question, you know, is this possible? Because a lot of times it is possible. And sometimes we feel like, you ever heard the quote that it always seems impossible until it's done,
Mhm.
or something along those lines? And that's how it feels. That's how it feels because, you know, we start to build these barriers on whether or not we can do something because we've never done it before, or we just think ahead and like, oh, it's gonna take me doing this and that. And I don't know if I'm up for that, but it just starts with a simple, is this possible? How can we get this done?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because I thought that way for a long time. The way you're like I said, I thought, I was like, I'm gonna have to wait till I like, you know, get super famous and like make it big. And it's like, well, those things aren't guaranteed, you know. Like I could go through my whole career as a costume designer and no one ever know my name and be an amazing working costume designer and do well for myself. So why do I have to wait till other people recognize who I am to give back? Like it just didn't, you know, I realized like that didn't make sense. And I think it was just me thinking from like a capitalistic kind of standpoint, you know, versus thinking from a humanistic kind of standpoint, where it's like any little thing you do that's an act of kindness that is like giving is changing and helping someone, you know. And if you affect one person in a positive way and they're able to affect another person in a positive way, it just spreads out exponentially, you know. And thinking about it in those terms, and not like you have to do this whole grandiose thing, you know, to make an impact. It's like, no, you can impact one person and make a difference, and make a huge difference in someone's life.
Absolutely. And I think that's that self-love talking too, because, you know, you even said it, you're like, I wish I had something. I wish I had something like this as a kid.
Mhm.
And you being in this space, you know, here you are, you've done the work to get to where you are, and you working on this big time film. And it's just like, you took this time in that moment to soak it in. Like, I'm blessed. So I feel like this is a moment for me to bless others.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because I was very grateful. It took, you know, and that's what they say about like when your journey is a little bit slower, you know what I mean? And how like your success is going to last. But with that, you're also a lot more grateful, you know, like because I have gone through a lot of various struggles in my time of like coming up in this industry, you know, being a young Black woman who has no connections. You know, I have zero connections to this industry. I didn't go to school, you know, I don't have a network necessarily. So I had to like really struggle to get to where I'm at in a lot of ways. So you're just very grateful when these good things happen to you and these successes happen. And what you want to do is like figure out how to like help someone else, bring someone else along. You know what I'm saying? Or that's what I want to do. Not everybody's like me, but that's what I want to do, because I'm like, everybody ain't got to struggle like I struggled, you know? You know, like you got to work hard. Yes, absolutely. But work hard and struggle is two different things. And I'm trying to eliminate struggle for myself and others in any way that I can.
Absolutely. Charlese, I appreciate you speaking with me. What are some words of encouragement for Black people or creatives, all of the alike, Black creatives?
Black
What
creatives.
is what words of encouragement can you give to Black creatives during a time like this?
You know, I would say keep making your art. Make sure you're networking horizontally with your peers and bringing each other up together, because that's how Judas and the Black Messiah got made. You know, Shaka brought all of us up with him that he could, you know, from cast to crew, a lot of people that he's worked with over and over in the past. And, you know, and so that's how you become successful, is by, you know, networking with other Black creatives and supporting other Black creatives and bringing each other up and like really supporting each other and not being in competition with one another. You know, there's enough for all of us out there if we work together and support each other. And also, you know, just not doing things for acceptance, you know, just keep curating and doing your art. You know, whatever your perspective is, like keep cultivating that. And eventually people will catch on, you know. It takes a while and you just gotta stay consistent and stay at it. And but also, you know, assert yourself and be like, this is what I'm doing. And, you know, make sure you are clear about your messaging and clear about your intentions and able to communicate that and presenting yourself in an amazing way. You know, present your work in an amazing way. You know, and I think that's something that we don't always do. We're just kind of like, oh, you know, I'm doing this art. No, present it, put effort into your presentation, be proud of what you're doing. And that's why I said, like, I was down to speak to you because I was like, he's presenting this in a really dope way. And I love to see that. I'm like, yes, you know, people putting effort into their art and their creativity and presenting it in a beautiful, digestible way. And everything isn't always digestible, but put effort into the presentation and believe in yourself and believe in your art and just go for it, you know?
Thank you, Charlese. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me and even being so quick to get back to my DM because it was like less than an hour. I was like, wow, wasn't expecting that. This is great. So I appreciate it. And, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, I'll keep in touch with you, you know, just to talk with you. And I just thank you for just sharing this because, you know, once this airs, you know, I'm going to send it to everybody because so many people want to be creative and they just don't want to just settle for the template that's been laid out for human life. You know, we really want to just express ourselves and be the best that we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. It just takes time, dedication, and
Yeah.
just keep doing it. I mean, you know, this is kind of coming up on year 10 as a costume designer and year 13 in the business. So it takes time.